Hello, hello. We will get started in just a minute here, just letting some people join. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Happy Tuesday.
Okay. I will kick things off and let everybody come at their own time. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on maximizing revenue in Q4 and beyond. I'm Caroline, Senior Marketing Manager at Freestar, and I will be your moderator for today. As we all know, Q4 is huge for publishers. It's when ad spend really spikes, especially with the holiday shopping season and major events like the upcoming election. So it's more important than ever to have a really solid strategy in place to capture that increased spend. So today, we're going to dive into some really actionable tips to help you make the most of these opportunities and to maximize your revenue. This will be an open discussion, so feel free to ask questions throughout the session in the comments section. I'll be pulling them up on the screen as we go. And do not worry, you will get a recording of the session afterwards, so you can revisit anything that you might have missed. I'm excited to introduce our speakers for today. So we have Lindsay Valdez, VP of Audience Strategy at Freestar. Lindsay is a content and traffic strategy expert. She's going to be walking us through how to refresh your high content traffic or your high traffic content and some of the key trends to watch out for as we navigate Q4. Shaina Lam, VP of Demand Partnerships at Freestar. Shaina specializes in advertiser partnerships and understanding spend trends. She's going to break down what we're seeing with curated deals and how events like the holidays and the election are impacting advertiser demand. And finally, Jess Sims, VP of Customer Success at Freestar. Jess leads our customer success managers, and today she's going to talk about optimizing your ad layouts for peak spend days. She'll also be sharing some real-world publisher wins, showing how small changes can have a big impact on revenue. All right, with that, we can get started. Lindsay, do you want to kick things off by telling us how publishers can refresh their content and what trends they should be watching out for this quarter?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. As Caroline said, my name is Lindsay, and I lead audience strategy at Freestar, where we work with publishers on traffic growth and audience initiatives. When I think about publishers in Q4, largely what Caroline spoke of is in November and December. There's a lot of short-term optimizations to capitalize then, but also long-term into the coming year. So excited to get going on that. I have, as she also said, let's see, in the comments, feel free, we're kind of monitoring those. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those in real time. When I think of the different optimizations a publisher would make when you're coming into this high peak of traffic time, it largely fits in three areas. What came to my mind most was things that they can do on the website and content optimizations. I will kick things off with refreshing content. But another area of opportunity I want you to think of in advance here is first-party data, largely collecting an email address, or if you're not to that point yet, really beginning to think of your value prop, in which what are you offering in these next 2 months that somebody may feel compelled to exchange a bit of information for whatever that is. We're going to talk about strategies that you can do to boost that your number of subscribers and email addresses. And then also using this time to really evolve your brand. That's something we at Freestar are talking a lot about for publishers, just your publisher brand specifically, how to really be an authority in your niche trustworthy content, a quality space where advertisers as well as users would want to spend time at and purchase and trust and consume content from. So those are the three largest areas I think of where you can really should be thinking quick wins in the next 2 months and in the year to come. So when it comes to content, I think this is one of the more interesting and fun parts of publisher strategy, when you get to look throughout the year to see what sort of seasonal topics you can connect with your audience on. So you want to be going for that very authentic connection with your audience. And a lot of that has to do with custom experiences. From a content perspective, users are excited for these sort of upcoming trends that I'm going to discuss. So why not use your own brand or product or content to connect with them in those spaces? You want to stay relevant to your niche. So think of where you are in your day-to-day content and editorial strategy. If you're a recipe site, if you're a craft or DIY site, travel sites, gaming sites, anything that has, and much of this is like a crossover sometimes on your own site. But if you cover product recommendations or deal related content, this is the time to think about how to weave those seasonal angles into that content in a natural way. As far as the time is now for when to get started. I was reading in just some preparation for this, and I'll quote some data here, but there's many marketing reports that come out right around Q4 on what people are looking for and how they are planned to shop. It's kind of all around the shopping experience for these next few months. So get creative with your angles, and the time is now. If I'm going to talk about refreshing content here, start, if you haven't already, digging through what did well last year. You want to be able to see, I would say in general, creating a brand new piece of content today is going to just be more difficult to rank fast versus if you have had certain pieces that have done well year over year, that you can find those. If it is a certain, I talked about those niches before, but a gift guide that does well every year, you're going to have backlinks to that already. You're going to have its presence within your different social areas and also Google, where it has a bit of strength acquired versus just a brand new post. Think of how competitive things are now for publishers in the content space versus how it was 10 years ago. If you've kind of maintained content, it's a great way to go about it. See what did well last year. You can certainly target in GA4. So whether you're using the traffic acquisition reports or the page screen reports in GA4, you can certainly look at organic search. It's a great place to start, is by looking at where the certain content performed, but also with new information that was leaked from Google over this past summer, we know that Chrome clickstream data is accounted for anywhere. So if something did really well on Facebook, Google also has signals that has occurred that told it was doing viral in these other locations. And there was a connection to that also doing better in organic search. So look at content from every different area. Google Discover, great area. They really favor headlines that have a trending or time-sensitive element. So what a great way to angle and create content that has a bit to do with the upcoming seasonality to capitalize on Google News and Google Discover traffic. When you are looking back at what did well, or let's say that you have never done seasonal content, and this is going to be the first year that you do, just understand that keeping it updated throughout each season will be very beneficial. Either way, though, when you're starting new headlines, think of images as one of the most important aspects of the page. You really want to have quality images. One of the data points I read was that an intriguing image during the next 2 months can increase click-through rate by 45%. It's a very visual time of year. People are ready to spend money. People are looking, and it is even, I'm speaking of the next 2 months, but even now there's seasonal content trending for October events and Halloween, things like that you can be updating content for. Let's see, look at your social. I would say to recent, look at what also has been doing recently, because sites are very different than they were a year ago. We've gone through a lot with Google where they're really what you could have done well a year ago you might not have that strength now. That's okay. Look, also just incorporate in the last few months what Google has been giving you strength in and see if you can bring a seasonal aspect to that. When you are actually updating the content, I tend to go by less is add, don't subtract is a good one for refreshing, because you don't exactly know what's given it value all this, like last year, that made it do well in the first place. So say you're doing a gift guide or a listicle, add to it. It's very important that you're talking to your users, and I kind of touch on this in the brand section as well. It's very important that you're talking to them in first person, like that whoever the authors are that are quality and experts enough to be right into those things, that they're very authentic and connecting with that user when you go through the content updates and refreshes. Add new images, add video. Video is a great way to increase engagement for your site. People will stay on the site longer when there is that included. All right, so when you're looking at your content too, that's updating. Add, don't subtract. Go through and bring everything current. At the very end, refresh that date. That has a lot to do. Google has a sort of like a freshness factor in which they can tell how much you've updated. So don't just update the date. I've worked with publishers that have been absolutely penalized for the practice of just updating dates to make it look like it's been updated content. We're really talking about taking the effort. This will take time. Product links that may not be good anymore. The deals, products might not be popular in the way they were last year. So take the time to truly update it and then update that date on the end. All right. Next, review your site for overall quality. This is a great exercise to do now, heading into the next 2 months, but then also for any big site changes, you may want to wait till Q1. It's a little slower of a time period before you're making any sort of big changes to the site in pursuit of quality improvements. Still do those things. Now's a good time to assess, but then possibly wait to actually make the bigger changes. On the actual content headlines, if you're wondering if you can compete or why your article's not performing, one thing I tell publishers to do is to go into an encrypted browser and search for it. Just search for whatever you think your topic, the main search term is. Google tells you what they value in the first 1 to 5 rankings. If you go to your site and it's cluttered with ads everywhere, videos everywhere, you can't even get to that content, you're likely going to experience something different when clicking into positions 1, 2, and 3 from those search results. This will just give you, maybe every single of the top results has a video and you're looking for a way to justify bringing that type of format to your site. You're like, oh, all these other sites are doing it. Maybe it's actually a good thing for the user because users are consuming more video content now than ever before. So that's one way to go about just basic quality. Is your site up to what Google's saying is performing? I read a lot about the trend of decentralization, and I think this goes in so many aspects of our life right now. So many people being on Facebook, we've seen that go away. These areas where it had the huge scale traffic, that goes the same for users being willing to visit multiple places and consume information and content from multiple brands. It's a good and bad in the sense of you may not see the heightened numbers but they may be more authentic and long-term users, and they may convert from a revenue perspective better. And so that you as a publisher are still, if you're doing more with less or monetizing in a different way, I'm very confident you can receive the same results as previous years without that scale traffic. But it also means those that haven't been maybe given the chance. So we've talked in many previous webinars on how a certain domain, just because it's owned by whoever, or the celebrity factors or the size of the domain and brand, has to do with how you perform in organic search. I think that's going to change in coming years when people really want to get to know different brands and have more of an array of people to choose from when they're looking at who to trust for their content ideas. Multiple reports continue to say video format shines the brightest this holiday season. I can't take credit for that, but continue, just report after report said that users were looking for that. All right, that is some of the more on-page website factors that you can do. Make sure your social handles are up to date, your profiles. If you're so just like bringing some of those changes to the site right now can bring more traffic. So for that first party data, I think the most natural thing I talk about with publishers is the email address, and having that as a way to connect with your users, not only in terms of we talk about privacy and giving users the ability to be within your website in a logged in environment, but also just from like, what about a newsletter perspective? Is that newsletter sign up form prominently displayed on your homepage, on your article pages? Is it an option when they're in this mode of learning about your brand, considering your content angles, having that as the more long-term connection point for users, but to also avoid just asking for it to ask for it. I work with, our team here works with publishers on their long-term first-party data strategies. What are you actually going to do with that over time? Users are more particular, although data suggested they're more likely to give information, their email address, away in November and December, which was interesting to see. I think they're just in that mode of having to pay to play, give a little piece of data for whatever it is they're going to get. You can also use this as like a walled content opportunity. If you have an annual, I'll say gift guide, certainly doesn't need to be, but an annual piece or product review or just coverage in any way, a travel guide for the holidays, you can implement a little bit of text that just has like before you get the download, like that kind of splash page. You fill out your name and email address, and you get the guide either download there or delivered to you. So using content is a way to, or specialized content is a way to connect with users and get them to trust you in that way. All right, I talked about walled content, subscription models, discount. I think that's more of an obvious one. People are looking for deals, looking for ways to save money during the next few months as well. All right, last section here is about using this as an opportunity to build your brand strength. So do you have Q4 newsletter opportunities that are catered towards these holiday subjects or themes or topics? This can really help people associate your brand with an actual topic or something that they may want to be invested in long term. Your website should be an experience people remember, and like a destination source versus just this one-off article landing page that they're going to leave from. From a traffic perspective, I think we talk about the value of the deeper content pages, but brands and advertisers, which Shaina is going to talk to, visit homepages. They want to know what value you're offering and is it a good quality experience. They are likely to check out that environment. So it's a great time to refresh your homepage, highlight those seasonal, move things around or modules if you have a very flexible frame, update your navigation. I love when I go to a website or a publisher site and it's related to, let's say deals and coupons, maybe having Black Friday deals right in the navigation or right at the top as you're going to their homepage. You see it in the nav, you go to and you can click one click away from all this aggregated content about their Black Friday deals or however they're covering that. So remaining flexible and changing and refreshing your site to go with the seasons is a great way to establish brand. Everything in branding really starts and ends with your audience, understanding who your audience is. We launched something this month, where publishers can ask for data one sheets and who is their audience, and they can really understand not only who's purchasing some of our audience segments capabilities on their sites, but also what contextual topics do the best and what the size of your audience, demographics, geolocation, all of that can be used to cater and customize your angles, as well as your advertising experiences, but also your content. So the more you know and can understand about your audiences, the better you're going to be. There's a desire for people to really pick brands they trust to not only purchase from, but also consume content from. It kind of seems silly, but I talk a lot about having an about page, an easy one, or an author bio pages. It's easy because users want that. And to that, it's not like Google saying, hey, you'll rank better because you have author bio pages or an about us page with a mission and a purpose and audience listed. But it's because users over time are savvier than ever. They're coming into a world where data's everywhere, misinformation's everywhere. It's not accurate. Who do they trust? So by being very transparent with your audience, you can definitely build the brand and brand trust there. And I think the last point here really is to, in a world of AI generated content and AI generated images, and all of this has become the very bottom baseline for what you should really be publishing. You need to build on top of that. Sure, use it for efficiency's sake. Use it to better understand your data. Absolutely. But I do believe there's going to be a continual shift back to value in uniqueness and personality. And the entire point of AI is to be average. Users are going to want to connect in a different way. So continue as a publisher to use it when you can, but also find ways to stand out, find ways to show value to your users. This is going to be something that is very relevant in the coming years in your longevity as a publisher brand and somewhere people trust. All right, I will pause. That was great. Very fun. You can reach me through Freestar. We'll follow up with some information, but anytime. And I will pause or kick it to Shaina for advertisers, spend trends, and revenue optimizations.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. And thank you, Christy, for the question. I'll come right back to it. I think I'll answer a part of it, and I will continue to elaborate a little bit more on that. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on maximizing revenue in Q4. I'm Shaina Lam, VP of Demand Partnerships. My team works closely with SSPs or supply-side platforms and DSPs, demand-side platforms. Today, I'll walk you through some of our trends, strategies, and product recommendations to help you boost revenue for the rest of Q4 and to set you up for success moving forward. So let's dive into some of the advertiser spend trends that we're seeing. The demand team has been working very closely and collaboratively with our SSP partners on our curated deal strategy, which there's been a lot of industry news about this. So you guys can probably see that there's been news about moving towards curation as a strategy. So we're really trying to opt into publishers into any and all evergreen deals, seasonal packages, and tentpole events. As a whole, we've seen a 60% year-over-year increase in deal spend across all of our Freestar publishers, and we're expecting at least a 20% jump from Q3 to Q4. Q4 is crunch time for advertisers, especially with everything happening at once, with the holidays coming up, sports events, the US election, which alone will drive more than $10 billion in political ad spend, and we're really at the peak of political ad spend right now. Another important trend that we're seeing the shift toward, which will partly answer your question, Christy, is moving towards curating deal spend for minority-owned and DEI publishers. Advertisers are increasingly recognizing the value of reaching diverse audiences, and these publishers can connect with them. It's about building brand loyalty and making a meaningful impact by engaging with underrepresented but highly engaged communities. On the SSP side, there's a growing interest in deals specifically designed for minority-owned publishers. So if you self-identify as minority-owned, which could be women-owned, Hispanic-owned, Asian-owned, any of the above, please let your CSM know. We want to make sure you're opted into any of the available opportunities that are tailored to you and your audience. And to further answer your question, Christy, there's definitely been a push for more quality publishers and content, having unique and valuable content, pushes away from arbitrage sites or MFA sites. So it's something that Freestar as a whole really tries to move towards, is working with high quality publishers like any of the pubs that we have on the call today, and trying to bridge any gaps between us, Freestar publishers, and the buy side, and making sure that they're aware of any of the inventory that we have. We don't want it to just be Freestar and everything just falls under Freestar as an umbrella. Freestar works with a lot of different publishers, and we want to highlight all the different content verticals it goes across, any key performance metrics that we need to highlight for specific publishers that are highly engaging or have really highly viewable ad units. So we try to highlight specific publishers to the demand side so that they're aware of the inventory that they're seeing and are able to take action against those publishers that are more highly engaging, have diverse audiences, things like that. We have also seen several high impact ad formats that generate higher CPMs than traditional standard display ads, such as skins, various native placements, interstitials, expandable and collapsible ads, exit intent ads, and video ads. Video in particular is a key driver. If you haven't implemented any of our video products yet, it's a great opportunity to drive significant spend for the remainder of Q4. Video CPMs are 3 to 4 times higher than display, and it was generally adding incremental value, so definitely recommend that. Some really quick recommendations: we have our Outstream slider, which is video ads only, and we also have our accompanying content video units, which have both video ads and content. And I believe Jess is going to touch on some video wins for a publisher next. If you're interested in adding video products to your site, please let your CSM know. And a couple of housekeeping items. A very quick win to unlocking more demand is making sure your ads.txt file is fully up to date. If you're not updating your ads.txt file, you're likely missing out on some revenue opportunities, as we're constantly adding new demand partners. We recommend using our dynamic ads.txt solution, as it will automatically update anytime we add or remove any lines, ensuring you're always up to date in your access to new demand. Another thing is taking a look at your block list. Be careful not to overblock, especially for categories like politics or retailers for Q4, unless it's absolutely necessary, because that can significantly limit your revenue opportunities. The less that's on your block list, the better. If you're not sure what's on your block list, ask your CSM and we can help you review and adjust it as needed. If you have any questions about anything I mentioned, feel free to reach out to your CSM or reach out to me directly. There's a question from Sando. Should publishers prepare for a fluctuation in performance metrics due to the increased demand driven by the election? I would say yes, because it will definitely be inflated for a short period of time. Something we do for the publishers that will expect to have a traffic increase during election season in this time is we give a heads up to our demand partners and saying this is all going to be organic traffic. The traffic increase that you see for these sites is really due to people looking for this type of content and making sure that they're not flagging any significant traffic increases as IVT or anything. We definitely saw this last election season, so we want to get ahead of that. But yes, I do expect that there will be some fluctuation, definitely more spend towards political, and then that's going to really quickly go away right after the election. And from Joel, if we already have first-party data, emails, names in an unhashed fashion, what do we need to do to get them to Freestar, and how technical or complicated is the ask? I think I'm going to pass it over to Lindsay.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. That is great that you have already thought about first party data and have some of those. We do have simple instructions. I've been on a publisher where their developer did it in the time of the phone call. So simple instructions to get them done. You hash them on your side and pass them to us in that hashed manner. So we can follow up with, let's see, how should we do that? We can follow up with the actual instructions after the call, or we can drop them in directly here.
Great. And hey, Lauren G. A little note from you in there as well. Hello. Awesome. Hey, everyone. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Jessica, and I lead the team of CSMs here at Freestar that some of you actually currently work with. So please feel free to use me as a resource if you need to. Reach out to me directly at any time. We'll share my email address afterward. I'd love to get to meet you if I haven't already. And just to provide a little bit more insight into the team, kind of taking a step back. If you're not aware, there are actually close to 30 CSMs located all over the world. We just really want to cover all the time zones if we can to really provide that top tier service and guidance and consultation to all of our publishers. And, you know, we also have a bunch of folks behind the scenes as well, which we like to get on calls sometimes if necessary, which includes, you know, support engineers and yield analysts and all the folks that do all the amazing work behind the scenes, also including our 60+ engineering team, which is pretty incredible. So, you know, it's not just us that you get to talk to all the time, in addition to, you know, Shaina and Lindsay. It's also all of these folks behind the scenes that would always be more than happy to get on a call if you're ever interested. And next, getting into the good stuff, just the specifics around what we offer. And just really continue to discuss how we maximize your revenue, not only into this quarter, but going into 2025 as well. So if you are a publisher currently working with Freestar, you know that we're always in the mindset of optimizing, whether that's with our demand partners or with ad units and products. It's no different heading into Q4, where, you know, seasonality wise, you have the highest potential to earn the most amount of revenue possible. So really trying to capture that now going into the rest of the quarter there. If you're currently a publisher with us, you know that during your quarterly and annual business reviews, we do try to discuss these optimizations as much as possible, put them in front of you if you haven't seen them already, mainly with ideal ad layouts and just any tweaks that you can make from your side as well. But we also have recurring calls, so bi-weekly, weekly, whatever your preference is, just to really make sure that you're understanding, you know, updated industry trends and just trying to find the most ideal ad layout possible. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And so we just really want to make sure that it's like truly customized based on not only what you prefer, but your KPIs and just your site in general. So with that, I do want to transition, as we discussed before, into a specific publisher win. And I think kind of doubling down on the messaging with a video in particular. This is a massive, massive win for one of our publishers. They wanted to test out video. So in late September, we implemented video on one of their ad units. And before, their daily average revenue was about $6,500. After the video implementation, they're averaging about $28,000 a day in revenue. And so, you know, this is absolutely incredible. It's not the case for everybody. It all just depends on, you know, the situation and several factors that go into that. But it just really goes to show how impactful just one minor change like that can be. And even just replacing a display ad unit with video too. We're not trying to load the page with, you know, ad density and just go crazy, but just making those small tweaks and trying to figure out what the best, most optimal, you know, layout would be. And then also, you know, the internet is really used to video at this point. It's not about, in our opinion, it's not really about UX anymore, because users are used to seeing that video content. And so even just testing it out for 2 weeks and seeing what the uplift is, I think would be one of the biggest ways we can capture that additional revenue for the rest of the year. And then kind of doubling down on what Shaina said earlier as well about block lists and cleaning those up, especially removing politics for the upcoming election here in the US. And then looking for, you know, Black Friday, Cyber Monday optimizations as well, removing certain advertisers from your block list, even if it's just for, you know, that weekend, I think could be pretty impactful. And then testing out those higher impact ad units that we touched on earlier, the sticky footer, the push downs, the interstitials, all of those that maybe for the rest of the year, you're not as comfortable running, but it's something to think about just for those couple of days toward the end of the year. And then just going into a little bit more around optimizing ad placements. We can flex your ad unit, so that means just adding more sizes to it. We want to bring as much competition to the auction as possible, and that will result in higher CPM and fill. And so just a few additional sizes, it's not going to do anything crazy, but it's definitely going to move the needle in the way that we want to see. And then viewability, a lot of networks are, targeting those higher viewable units and sites. So we recommend lazy loading where we can, and then really pushing you into that next viewability bucket to get those high viewable placements there. And then as far as the latest trends in ad formats and sizes, we do review on the back end. We're as I said earlier, just constantly optimizing. And one recent win for the team is, and we work with the Google interstitial. We enabled a new functionality for it, which is triggered by an exit intent as opposed to navigation. And just so always trying to find those little tweaks where we can, just to get the most revenue. As well as, performing regular audits of our top performing ad sizes. And so we can add those into the ad units when possible and just ensure that all of the best sizes are enabled. And then quickly, just, going back to the benefits of using those non-standard formats, in addition to, increased revenue, it can be, again, just a test to try it out and see, what the feedback is, what the lift is. But I think just really, leaning into the fact that this is just a test. It's not something permanent. It's, something we can work with you on to your comfort level. And I think just to keep that in mind is that we're here to really customize the approach with you and make sure that you're comfortable, but also maximizing revenue where we can. So again, that's interstitials, adhesions, in-content placements, all of those. And so I know that was a lot of information. It's a lot of products. We have an incredible array of them. So again, if you want to discuss any of them more, please feel free to reach out to your CSM or myself or both of us, and be happy to get on a call. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Before we do any wrap-ups, Lindsay, it looks like we have another question, which I think we could probably touch on again. So obviously you shared several of these awesome optimization ideas. If a publisher isn't able to implement all of them, what do you think the publisher should prioritize and maybe focus on first to get the most benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would go to time sensitive first for the revenue opportunities that Jess and Shane have touched on here for the next 2 months. I mean, it's an incredible time of the year for those. So updating content or creating seasonal content or making small tweaks that don't take like a developer or anything like that, small tweaks to your site to improve some quality things if it's overly cluttered or a certain way. But those quick wins with content is a great way to something to do first. And then some of the other things can definitely wait till Q1, and it can be a longer strategy. If you're not, the data, getting a newsletter box, that stuff up or where it is on the site, anything that's going to take structural site changes or long sort of formulation around editorial strategy, those stuff can be looked at second to getting some of these quick trending moments to capitalize on those. That's what I would go with first. Great question.
Thank you so much, all of you. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Obviously, huge shout out to our speakers, Lindsay, Shaina, and Jess, for sharing such awesome insights. I hope you all were able to take some valuable takeaways to help you make the most of Q4. We will be sending out this recording of today's session straight to your inbox soon. So keep an eye out for that if you want to revisit anything that we covered. Before we wrap things up, I do want to give a quick heads up that Freestar will be hosting one final webinar before the end of the year. We'll be talking about key trends for 2025, industry predictions, and what's coming up for publishers. Our CEO, Kurt Donnell, will be joining us. And that's all I can share for now, but make sure to follow us on LinkedIn or subscribe to our newsletter to stay in the loop for all of those details to come. If you do have any questions that weren't answered today, or you just need to get in touch with someone on our team, either reach out to your customer success manager or feel free to reach out to us at hello@freestar.com, and I would be happy to point you in the right direction. That is it from me. So thank you again for joining us, everyone, and hopefully we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.